Hello, and welcome to the Jared Hurst Podcast. This podcast is a place of transformation, growth, spirituality, and connection. This week, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about making little changes for big results. So, this is one of those things that came into my life and it just kept showing up over and over and over again. I don't know if you've had moments like this. I imagine you have, where it feels like the universe is screaming a message at you. You must pay attention to me. And I had one of those moments the other week where I kept getting this message of making little changes and that leading to big results. So when I've had these kind of things happen, typically what happens is somebody will talk to me, I'll read something in a book a day later or even the same day. All of a sudden I'll see a clip or two or three on Instagram or Facebook, and I just keep getting that same message over and over again within maybe in one day or a few hours or maybe over the course of a couple days. So I had this moment, I was reading this book, and they said that we very rarely as humans make big, massive changes. And I agree with that, though I do think when we have our identity and belief system challenged in a dramatic way, that we can have massive growth and change over a fairly short period of time. One example of that is if we get a cancer diagnosis, or we get divorced, or somebody dies that's important to us. Big dramatic events that cause us to reevaluate the way that we see reality. And I think those moments can have big change. But a lot of the times we're not changing in big ways over short periods of time, and we're not doing it all at once. We're not just making one big massive push and having a change. It's the little things over time compounded that end up leading to these big adjustments in who we are. So I've been thinking a little bit about this concept, playing around with it a bit in my mind, and looking back at my life, the way that my life has evolved, the way that my life has changed, and kind of questioning this. Whenever I hear something, I never accept it at face value. I always question it, but I'm always open-minded as well. So to me, it's being open-minded enough to be willing to hear and accept new ideas and new concepts, but then also at the time being critical and looking at it from a bunch of different perspectives to see if I really agree with it, see if I can see evidence of it. One of those moments in my life was when I first started trying to go to the gym. So I went to the gym with a buddy back in college, and that was about it until it was probably after my first divorce. I started, I was looking at my life and I was going to go out and date and I wanted to get in good shape, right? So I started working out and everything. I was okay with it. I was kind of consistent, but not a lot. Around, I'm going to say 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I started getting really dedicated at going to the gym consistently. But the way that I started that whole process is kind of funny. I had this moment, I was listening to some Instagram videos, and this person talked about how getting to the gym was such a battle for them. And what they did is they would go to bed in their gym clothes and have their shoes right next to their bed. So all they had to do was hit the alarm, roll out of bed, and go. They tried to make the barrier for going to the gym as easy as possible. And that's this concept we're talking about of making things small, right? So there's also another concept. So there's this one that I read in the book where it talked about how we typically make big changes through small adjustments, consistently done over time. And then I heard this other thing just hours later through Instagram where this woman was talking about how if you can't get yourself to take action on something, it means that the first step is not small enough. And she learned in elementary school that the best thing for her to do is keep making the first step, smaller until she could get herself to take action. Okay? And that's kind of what we're digging on right now. Both of those concepts kind of merged into one. Okay, I digress. So back to my story. I'm wanting to go to the gym, having a brutal time getting myself to do it. And this is where it gets kind of funny. So I said to myself, I am going to drive to the gym every day until it is a habit. That is how I made my first step as small as possible. I wasn't even committed to working out. And so for a period of 2 weeks, I literally got up every morning, got in my car, drove to the gym, hopped on my phone, played around with social media for a little while, and then I drove home. That was it. It was just me forming the habit of getting myself to go to the gym. Then I was wanting to do something more. So I said, well, I could go in. I've got on my pass, I can get a massage. They have these massage chairs. So I said, all right, I'll go in and I'll get a massage. So for maybe a week or more longer, I went in, got a massage. Then fast forward, I started stretching afterwards. So then I started stretching for a couple of weeks. Then I did one workout with maybe 4 reps, 4 sets. I apologize. 10 reps for a set, 4 sets, 1 exercise. So I might do a bicep curl. And that's all I did. I'd go to the gym, I'd go inside, get my massage, I'd stretch, and then I'd do my bicep curl, and then I'd be done. Anyway, fast forward, eventually over time, I got to the point where I was doing 6, 7, 8 different muscles, different exercises. I would do 4 or 5 sets of 10 reps each, and I would do the massage chair, and I'd do the stretching, and I'd go to the sauna. Anyway, it was crazy. I was at the gym way too long. So I eventually, what's the word I'm looking for? Streamlined? That works. I streamlined the process to the point now where I go to the gym every day. I work out for about 45 minutes. Then I do sauna for about 15-20. Then I stretch at the end, and then I go home. I can get the whole thing done in around an hour and 45 minutes between drive time, which ends up being about half an hour, and then everything else. So that is my process where I made my first step small enough that I was able to get myself to take action. And then I turned it into a habit. And once it's a habit, you don't have to take action anymore because it's just part of you. It's something you do and you don't really even have to think. You don't have to get the energy up in order to do something that's a habit. I never have to work hard to get myself to brush my teeth at night. It is so ingrained in me that it feels weird if I don't brush my teeth. I have to brush my teeth every night or it drives me batty. Right? You probably have the same thing where you have habits that are so easy for you to do, they're almost impossible not to do. So this concept of how can I make the first step small enough? How can I make small changes that lead to big results? I was talking with somebody and they were trying to make major life changes in their life. They wanted to change their body. They wanted to change the way that they saw themselves. They wanted to do all these different things. And when you looked at it, it was overwhelming. I felt overwhelmed, and it wasn't me trying to change. This was me giving someone advice and coaching them and trying to help them change their life. And I said, if you've ever heard the analogy of how to eat an elephant, and they're like, no. And I said, if you're going to eat an elephant, you eat it one bite at a time. You can't eat the whole elephant at once. Not that people are going to eat an elephant, but if you wanted to, if you had a giant elephant there in front of you and you wanted to eat it, it would have to be broken up small amounts over time, long period of time in order to make it happen. And that's what happens in life sometimes. If we make this big extravagant goal of how we're going to change our life, it feels overwhelming because we see all that we have to do and we get analysis paralysis sometimes where we overanalyze the thing. We get fear, we feel resistance, all these things start to come up and keep us from taking action because it feels like it's too much. So I told them, I said, we're going to make this as small as we can. All I want you to do is start being intentional with how you see yourself. Start thinking about yourself differently. Not all the time, just make sure that you do it every day, where you make an effort to think about yourself differently. And then the goal is then once you start thinking differently, then you start adding some different actions. You start making a habit of things, and you add on, and you add on, and you add on, and before you know it, you're a completely different person with completely different habits. And you did all of these big things by making all of these small changes. And it's just one thing at a time. So this one lady that was talking about how she learned how to make the first habit small enough, the first step small enough when she was in elementary school. She was a writer of some sorts, like a journalist or something like that, or an author. I'm not sure. But she said, I will get to go write something. And I think about writing all the pages. No, that feels too big. I think about writing a couple paragraphs. No, that feels too big. One paragraph, too big. Word. I can write a word. And so she sets a goal for herself to sit down and write a word. Then, once she sits down and writes the word, all of a sudden, maybe a second word comes to her, and she's willing to take action. It's so funny that a lot of the times we feel that initial resistance to take action, and then as soon as we get started, it all starts to flow. We start getting past it because we've broken through that barrier of fear. We've broken through that barrier of resistance because we've gotten ourselves to make it small enough that it doesn't feel scary anymore. On some level, we're not as worried about failure because we're not looking at the big picture. We're not as worried about, whatever it is that's holding you back, because there's a lot of different things that can keep us from taking action. So make the first step small enough that it feels doable. Once you start, see if you can get yourself to continue and take more action. And then continue to add habits and stack habits until all of a sudden you're a new person. I think there's two concepts here, really. Is one, making habits through small actions compounded over time. And two, making the first step small enough that it feels manageable to take action. And then, if you can, continue to build on that once you get yourself to start taking action. It's funny, as I look at my life, a lot of those things have come into play. Most of the time that I've made changes, it has been through small stuff. I'm starting to get a better feel for how to make big changes in my life in a shorter period of time. And that's something I'll bring to you later once I feel like I'm ready to share it. But this is definitely something that we need. I don't think learning how to make big changes over a short period of times, that negates the power of short, small, manageable tasks compounded over time, or from making steps small enough to get yourself to take action. I don't think those become irrelevant just because you learn how to do bigger stuff and make bigger changes in a shorter period of time. But that's a conversation for another day. Go out there, see how you can use this. See how you can make something smaller. Look at something in your life that you are having a hard time taking action on and ask yourself, how can I make the first step small enough that I will do this? And then go do that. Keep it going. I believe in you. I know you can do it. And until next time, remember that you are not alone.